Are we good? Okay. All right, meeting called to order then at 5:30. Public appearances. Anything?
Nope.
Okay. I need a motion to please approve the June 2023 minutes.
I move approval.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, treasurer's report.
I don't think there's anything interesting enough to report on this one. You've got the register and the overview. It was a real boring month.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
What do I have? Salaries jumped from, they run usually around 83, 85,000.
Yep.
In April, we went up to 125.
It's a 3-pay period month, so it's just where the dates fall. So it'll even itself out by the end of the year.
Okay.
But it's always alarming the first time it happens.
I couldn't remember. I knew there was something,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
okay. And,
You always got to ask a good question like that so people know you're paying attention.
Or that we're doing.
what?
And Wendy knows the answer.
You mean the 6 of us? Okay. My other question really came from, as I said to you before, I was worried about this chiller thing and having to
Yes.
pay extra money. And I noticed that we pay $1,900 a month for the copier, but we only take in $8,000 a year for the copier.
So we have 4 copiers.
So the
Is
1,900
why.
but we still are
Yeah.
in a deficit.
Yes.
Okay,
I think that's always been the case.
yeah,
It's just the cost of doing business. We will for sure be looking at more vendors the next time we renew that contract, which will be in '25.
okay.
Yeah, so we've got 2 public copiers and 2 staff copiers.
Okay.
So
But do you ever keep them past the lease term so that the,
we haven't so far, but who knows?
it could be a way it would even out is if you, once you own them,
Right.
and you only pay the per page, you might not, so.
Yeah, we can talk about that when it's not.
When it's,
Yeah.
yeah, we're looking 2 years down the line.
Right,
Yeah, I was just
right.
panicking about money.
Yes. I mean, you have to keep in mind that the children's department does a lot of copying for craft type stuff.
Right.
So we use the staff one.
A lot.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
So may I have, unless there are any other questions, or Wendy, you want to talk about anything?
Nope.
Then may I have a motion to approve the financial registers?
I move approval.
Thank you. Anything Wendy can clarify? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We never have unfinished business.
I don't like it.
Okay, we've got things done. Number 6, new business, draft 2024 budget with Misty.
Yes. So real quick, I just want to go through this version of it, because this is the first time that you've seen it. Just a reminder here at the beginning, this is a draft. This is not a finished product. There is a lot of work to be done, but we like you to see it before it goes through the next part of the process, which will happen before we meet again. Going through here, I have just made some notes on things that are changing, or that I want to point out. This is the narrative version, we call it, so this has a little bit more detail for each. So you look in like 245, you can see like what the breakdown of costs are there. So going through 240, we are at $20,000 for a second year in a row. We had to lower that by about $16,000 for 2023. So this is very low and makes me nervous. This is where we pay for the doors don't work. We have to get them fixed. The garage door won't close. The window breaks, that kind of stuff. We're looking at some plumbing right now that we're going to have to deal with. Because this is low, that's why we're not replacing the inverters on the solar.
Right.
So we're waiting towards the end of the year to see if we've gotten enough money to actually do that or not. But that's the reason we're holding off on some things, is because that is lower than I think I'm comfortable with. 245, we have moved some things in here that weren't here before. So this is software. Misty asked us for, I think there's some sort of
New rule.
So we're moving software that used to be in 290. So 290 is, should be going down, but it's about the same, and that's because we have service on the new sorter. So that's keeping that the same, and we moved some things. A lot of this is staying the same. Training and staff development is at 4,000. We have had that at 6 for most of our existence, so I think that that is low. We had to lower that last year because of the new pay plan implementation. Same thing for 350 and 360, so that repair and maintenance supplies and building repair, or we call it custodial supplies. So those have been $8,000 each in the past. They are now 6. These are the things that I was hoping to get back up to what I think is like normal for us and wasn't able to. And then we have another new account, 397. We're moving fuel into that account and taking it out of the vehicle expenses. And then the administrative fee, which is why Misty's here, has gone up quite a bit. So she's, I don't think anybody here has been in the conversation about administrative fee, so I thought it would just be a good time to kind of review what that is, why that we pay that, and why it's increasing.
Before Misty speaks, may I
Yeah.
ask a question? How many library board members have said they're not going to take their $25? Do you know?
I think 1 or 2.
Only,
Yeah.
that would be me.
So we're just
So one.
planning.
Okay, so we, okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take it away, Misty.
Yeah, so admin fee. So the library does a great job keeping track of the books. As you saw, Wendy knew all the answers right away. But she has a whole team behind her that helps her keep track of this, both at the library, but then also at City Hall. So what this admin fee does is because the library benefits from the services of a variety of different departments at City Hall, the library pays a proportionate share of those costs. So the different categories that are included are a small amount for mayor and council, administration, HR, legal, finance, economic development, and building and grounds. And how those are allocated is for everything except building and grounds, it's based on the FTE count. So the library total FTE count, or the full-time equivalent employees, their percentage of the whole overall city is how we allocate those budgets. There's some nuance, as there always is in numbers, right? So I'll say library uses the HR team a lot. They maybe don't use
Right.
mayor and council quite as much, but it all kind of evens out at the end. And so as long as there's a consistent method for allocating it, we feel comfortable with that approach. There was a pretty significant increase from the 2023 budget to the 2024 budget for the administrative charge. One thing to mention first is there's a timing difference. So this 2024 budget number that you're seeing for the first time is based off of the 2023 budget that the city passed. And if you look at that 2023 budget, we invested a lot in administrative services for the first time in a long time. So we're hiring a new deputy city administrator, which will actually be who Wendy reports to going forward, and indirectly. Obviously, the
right.
board is who you still report to,
Yep.
but they'll kind of be their day-to-day supervisor. We hired a new accountant in the finance department to help alleviate some of the pressures that we're getting with the growing community. And then we put a lot of money in for an investment in computer software. So the initial cost to implement the software is not being allocated to the library, but that ongoing annual maintenance cost is included in that budget that partially gets allocated to the library. So there was a pretty significant increase. The city addressed that, though, in my view. Generally, our arrangement is with the library, the city council decides how much funding, tax levy funding, the library receives, and then you all as the board get to decide how that's spent. When the city sets that amount, the past several years, we've had an understanding that it would be based on net new construction, which is the percentage that our levy limits are based off of, how much the city's allowed to increase their property taxes in the first place, or the expenditure restraint, because we kind of have those two constraints that we have to work with. So whichever one of those is lower is the amount that we would generally choose to pass on to the library for your spending. What we did differently, though, is we added an additional amount to that amount. So you still got your net new construction increase, just like before, but then we increased the amount last year, and then there'll be another increase for this year. Due to some TIDS closing, we had some capacity, passing that on to the library, which more than covers what this one-year increase is in that admin fee. So from my probably somewhat biased view, I feel like the library's operations were held harmless, even with this pretty significant investment in administrative services, of which the library will benefit. You know, that new software that will get clearly the library activity will flow through there, hoping to get some improvements in the payroll system. And then a budgeting software is the other big one that's on there, which will be great instead of, the word sheets and the Excel
Yeah.
sheets that we're
Yeah.
doing are antiquated. So
Yeah.
even though the library is benefiting from those investments, we held the library operations harmless from those investments. Yes.
Who else pays an administrative fee?
So anybody that's another separate fund. So the general fund is the main operating fund for the city. So anybody that's part of the general fund, moving money between the general fund doesn't really make sense. So it's just the ones that are set up as separate. So that would be the water utility, sewer utility, stormwater utility, the library, and then it used to be FACT TV, but they've now moved over to the general fund as of a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So they are no longer part of that.
And I will say, I do think that we get a lot of protection out of being our own fund. It allows us to keep our fund balance separate for the library's expenditures and not put into the general fund balance, which we need to use for bigger purchases. Having seen what happens to some libraries that are in the general fund, it's not great. So I think that, I guess in my mind, it's always been sort of a cost-benefit analysis there.
Misty, was there a way to prepare us for this big jump? Like, when did you know that this big jump was coming? Was this something that was 2 years in making and that we should have seen this coming? Because certainly 141 to 213 is like, what happened?
Yeah, 70-some thousand.
And so it was when the 2023 budget was adopted, was when we knew. But I know Wendy and I had a conversation back when library was struggling to balance originally with 2023. That's when we provided that additional funding. And so because the city invested in the library on top of what we normally do to account for that increase, I suspect that's why it wasn't, the alarm wasn't rung, because at least I didn't feel like it was a devastating thing. Yes, the amount's going up, but your revenue's going up to cover it.
Which is similar to last year, we struggled because of the pay plan implementation, which we were all in favor of, but it's hard to fit that, right? Like, all the costs are going up, so it was hard to fit that in. So that was covered also partially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the administrative fees being allocated among the segregated funds, that FTE allocation still allocates a portion of the expenses to the FTE count of like the city employees and the people that are in the general fund, right? Or is it only split between the segregated funds?
So we only do certain categories of the city's overall budget get included in that allocation of the library. So they're not paying for example, public works. They're not paying for that allocated portion. It's just those more administrative type functions. But then, yes, we take the total of the libraries, then the different utilities that people it goes to, and then everything else. And whatever that proportion is allocated out. So I think the answer is yes, but I don't know that I answered that very clearly.
Yeah, I think so. So that the city's still paying for their portion of the HR shared services.
Absolutely.
It's not like all of the HR shared services are being
Yeah,
distributed.
so we're at
only
like
to the
9%, so the library accounts for 9% of FTE.
Yep,
So that's how it's calculated.
exactly.
Should we assume that there would be a jump like this again next year?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So there'll probably be an increase.
Right.
Costs
Well,
are
of
continuing
course.
to increase. That's how that goes. Also found a flaw in the calculation that you talked to Wendy about that we may need to address next year. High level is, I think we've been undercharging the librry because of
No.
right? Because of a flaw in my budget database. So we'll have to talk about how we address that going forward, or if we do. Obviously, I'm not going to go back and retroactively charge the library, but we'll need to fix that or come up with a new methodology going forward. So that might change, but it wouldn't be anywhere near to this level. And then as far as the costs that are increasing, the city is very constrained by levy limits. So the ability of us to increase that cost that we're spreading across is very limited. So I would say it would be surprising if money was shifted from non-administrative functions to administrative functions in the near future.
Thank you.
Is the library benefiting at all from the state increase in shared revenue?
Oh, that was going to be my question, too.
So the state increase in shared revenue has to be spent on certain categories, which includes police, fire, EMS, transportation, courts, and public works. So the library is not an eligible function. The area where you could benefit is there is the innovation fund that's being created, all the rules to be determined, but let's say you had an innovation where you're consolidating library services with another community, something along those lines, which would be surprising, but is an option, then maybe you could tap into that funding. But the general shared revenue increase is not allowed to go to the library.
And that won't offset anything in those departments that would free up money for other departments?
Nope.
Are you sure?
We have a lot of deferred
know.
needs, I'd say, in
I know.
those areas.
I
Yep.
know.
So it'll be,
I know.
council's already been thinking about multiple ways that they want to spend that money, and
sure.
it's already spent 14 times over. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So where we're sitting with the budget, as I see it right now, is it will show you right now that we're $90,000, I think, in the hole. We are using $55,000 of fund balance, so that you subtract that out. So I think we're about $40,000 at a deficit right now. And I don't know that I see a lot of places to cut that, but that's kind of always where we're sitting right now, the budget. So I don't think anything is super unusual. It causes me angst, but then it does
We
that
figure
every
it
year.
out at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is there anything that Misty can clarify?
I just got one item on account 323.
Uh-huh.
There's 2 entries for 2023.
Oh, that should be 2024. I will fix that. Thank
That's
you.
my
Where
fault,
did you-
sorry.
Yep.
Good catch, though. We like it to be as professional
Yes.
as possible.
Yes, I have also noted a few other things
Sorry.
to be
Yep.
updated. Not on yours, on mine. Yeah.
Is
Hence why
the-
we're investing in budget software, if I may, right? So
Oh.
this Word doc and Excel things is
I
very
didn't-
archaic.
I'm so excited
That will
about
be
that.
much streamlined for both you and
When
then
I
for
started
everyone.
here and I realized that we were budgeting in Word,
It's ridiculous.
I mean, we do both, so don't worry, but yeah. Yeah.
In terms of budget cycles, is this step 1 or step 2 or step 3 or what?
This is really step one, so this is the first time you're going to see this. You're going to see this for the next probably 4 or 5 months. Every time there's a change, I'll bring it back to the library board. So the next step is that I'll meet with Misty and Chad, the city administrator, we'll go over things, then we'll add in the mayor to the discussion. So it kind of goes through multiple steps. It eventually goes to the council in, Misty will know the date.
September.
Okay, and then it'll come back as a final document.
So did the library start off in the hole for the 2023 budget?
I'm quite sure. Yeah. Don't you always
For-
have a deficit you have to figure out? I guess, do you mean at this stage?
Or
Well,
the-
like we're doing now, we're saying we're
Yes.
already in hole for 2024,
Yes.
so did the same thing
At
happen
this,
for
at this
2023?
stage, yes, this is
Okay.
not unusual.
Okay,
But we were not in the hole by the time we finished it.
okay. And,
With the exception of what we spent out of fund balance.
okay,
Which is actually, while you're here, another question that I would like to ask. Yeah. So we have a fairly healthy fund balance, and as you know, I'm always trying to figure out ways to use that because we're short here. But you can't, right? Like, you can go to CIP projects, and we can budget, so we usually budget $10,000 or $20,000 for or strategic planning projects. Is there any other way that we should be using our fund balance in order to make our situation better?
So I have a long answer, of course,
Okay.
for that. Yeah, the short
Yeah.
answer is you're doing it exactly right.
Okay.
And I appreciate that the library has a focus on financial responsibility in the long run, which is a thing that we take very seriously at the city and love that the library takes that just as seriously. So for your fund balance, you're going to want to have the different categories, and I think that's listed at the bottom of your
Yes,
thing. So we've
it is.
got, best practices across governments would be you want a percentage of your fund balance to be ready for emergencies.
Yes.
So whether you have a COVID hit and everything, you still need to pay for stuff, but you have no money coming in,
Mm-hmm.
or you have cash flow issues, or your sorter breaks and you weren't planning for it,
Yeah.
you need to have kind of that pseudo-emergency fund for the library. And so that is fully funded at this point for the library.
Mm-hmm.
Your other category is, you have some restricted money at the foundation. So obviously you can't
Mm-hmm. Right.
spend that on things except for
Right.
what the foundation allows. And then you have your equipment replacement amount. So that's what you've been, I guess, saving up for those large one-time capital projects. So similar to on the city side, we do replacement funds.
Mm-hmm.
On the library side, it's an informal replacement fund, I'll call it.
Yes.
So you're setting aside that money so that you're planned for it in the future.
Yes.
And then whatever's left on top of that is in theory money that you could spend and
Next
still be
year.
within the policy.
If we budget for it next year.
Correct.
But not,
The risk, though,
Yes.
is you want to make sure that you don't get into a situation called a structural deficit, where you're planning to use one-time money for an ongoing cost, right? You don't want to use fund balance to hire a new person, because you don't want to have to lay off that person the following year when you don't have fund balance anymore to pay for it. So you want to match your one-time fund balance capacity with one-time projects. So that's like the strategic plan is kind of one time. It's like investments in the thing. Eventually that process will end.
right.
It's a little gray, but it's at least more in line. The bigger things would be the sorters, those big capital projects. Make a lot of sense to use your fund balance for.
And we do have CIP projects for those bigger ones. Would there be a wisdom, and we can probably talk about this offline later, would there be wisdom? We got a lot of interest money early in this year, and I was just itching to spend it, and Missy said no.
And there's more coming.
So would there be a wisdom to doing some sort of, kind of like an equipment replacement? So like right now, I buy 4 test chairs every year so that we never have to replace all 45 of them at one time. And I'm just doing that out of the operating budget. Is there a wisdom to setting something up like that for furniture or carpet, or some of that is within the, we have a CIP that is with Public Works that is for building things.
Yep.
But this is more like on the furniture end. And if we did something like that, could that be funded with fund balance?
So we can do something like that.
Okay.
So we do that a lot on the city side with the capital stuff, so
Right.
if we have a 10-year piece of equipment, we set aside 10% of the money every year so that we have the cash available to spend it when we want. And you don't have those like peaks and valleys, right?
Right.
Kind of set aside, this is what I need just for status quo.
Yeah.
So capital side is already established, and if you wanted to, rather than keeping it in, say, the libraries fund, we could move that to the CIP, recognizing it's still library money.
Right.
But we could get that off your books if you wanted to, in a way
Okay.
that just kind of segregates it a little bit clearer
Okay.
than what you have currently. So that's
Okay.
one option. We also are now starting to implement small equipment replacement funds.
Okay.
So in order to be capital, it needs to be $10,000 individually. So one task chair clearly isn't $10,000, it's not capital. But we also include things in our CIP that as a group are $50,000 or more. So
Okay.
I don't know how much your task chairs cost in total. If they were 60 grand, then yes, that's a capital
Okay.
project we could
Okay.
do. If they're, say, 20 grand in total, we could set it up as a small equipment
Okay.
replacement fund in there.
Okay.
And then what you do is at the end of each year, you request carryover of that money. So it kind of accumulates
Oh, okay.
in the
That makes
operating
sense.
budget.
Yeah,
side.
okay. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. I guess I just want to stress that I appreciate that you're willing to work with us
Yeah.
on these things.
Yeah.
Right? We all have the same goal in mind.
Yes.
And finding ways that we can still obviously meet the library's
Yes.
needs, but also
Yes.
still be financially
I mostly
responsible is great.
appreciate that you keep me in line when I see the $20,000 I wasn't expecting, and like, I know 4 ways I could spend that by the end of tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. But it won't always
We
be
want
like
to do it
that.
the responsible way, we do.
Yep.
Yep, right, and it won't always be there.
Interest is crazy right now, for sure. Right,
Good.
keep it coming.
Excellent.
But it
Okay.
will, the bottom will fall out. So I
Yes.
went from, end of 2021, I was making like 0.01%
Yes.
on the city's money, and now I'm making like 5%. So with the millions of dollars that we have, obviously that adds up real fast.
Yeah.
But we can't always assume that it's going to be at 5%,
No.
because then when the market drops, now we have this gap that we have to
Like
figure out.
winning the
how to-
lottery just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Is the number in 290 for the sorter service contract?
Yes.
That's the 17,500 Envisionware?
Yes.
Okay.
The 6,000, so we used to pay Biblioteca about 20,000 a year, and because we're removing that sorter, that goes down, but we still have 6 self-checks, so we still have, so we're sort of having to do, it's not a double payment, but we're having to pay 2 entities instead of 1, and the service on the new sorter is more expensive.
Is it also a partial year, or are we getting the sorter right at the beginning of the?
So we're getting the sorter this year, and we get the first year for free, and then, so this will be the start of the second year.
Is the annual amount then more than 17,500?
It is a graduating amount.
So it goes up as the thing gets older?
Yes.
But it's not double that, for example.
No.
You don't have 6 months.
I
just in
remember
there.
thinking that it was really stupid expensive.
Yes. Yes. And necessary.
You're the expert on that.
But, yep. Yes. Yep.
Do you need, Wendy, an approval of a draft budget? Because this is going to go through so many changes? Or
I would like one just to acknowledge that you have seen it and you know where it stands right now, and then you'll have to do it 3 more times before the end of the year, I'm sorry.
Then I will motion to approve the draft of the 2024 budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank
Misty,
you.
thank you so
Have a good
much.
evening.
There you go.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Yeah.
You really made it clear, Misty. Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
Thank you. So we are moving on to revised Dane County Library standards.
Yes. All right, so this is something that I've been working on for a little while. So as you all know, Dane County Library Service takes in state money and allocates it to the county libraries. They have standards that we have to meet. This has been something we have sort of struggled with as a brand-new library. 12 years ago, we were supposed to have a collection of 86,000 books, and we had 60,000, so we had 3 years to get up to that. So you'll see if you go through it, there are a number of different standards. So there's minimum hours open, FTE staff, internet, computers, material expenditures, total collection size, acquisitions as a % of the standard range. So there's a number of things here. The purpose of these is to make sure that a municipality can't say, you know what, next year we don't have the money, we want to build a new road, we're going to take the library money and we're going to do something else with it. So you have to meet these standards in order to just maintain your service. If you miss the standards 3 times in 10 years, then you have to pay the library tax. We last paid the library tax in 2010 for a full year. It was $950,000 or something. It was almost $1 million then. That was 12 years ago, so it would be significant now. So it's in our best interest to meet these. We always have. So we worked really hard to get the collection up to the size that it needed to be. And then, like, as soon as we were, like, within spitting distance of that, they were like, you know, for new libraries, we're going to give you an extra 2 years. And I was like, well, you should have said that 2 years ago, because now it doesn't matter. We are butting up against that collection size standard again because Fitchburg is growing so fast. So we were 25,000 people when we opened. We're at 31,000 now, so that it inches up.
Wendy, does that 31 include the town of Madison that we took in?
It does.
Okay.
But I will say that I think the idea around town is that the census was such a disaster because people were afraid to answer it that I think 31,000 is low. I expected it to be 33 between the normal increase that we see and the town of Madison, and it came back at 30. It went down by like 75 people, I think, for Fitchburg, which is kind of crazy. So I think we'll see. I mean, the census isn't happening for another, 7 years. But I think it's a little bit artificially low. But yes, that is included. So I went to, Tracy is the director of the Dane County Library Service, and I went to her and said, look, like, we're butting up against this. I don't really see a benefit to packing all of our shelves with books. I think everybody knows in the library world that the fewer things you have, the better they check out. So when you jam all of your shelves full, it just looks overwhelming, and you can't get things off the shelf, and it doesn't help your collection and your circulation. And I said also, with the pandemic, like, a lot of us wanted to switch over to online services to put more money into ebooks, to put more money into, there are a lot of services that you could offer digital movies to people at home through the library. We can't afford to do any of that because we can't spend our collection money not on print things because we have to meet the standard. She took it to Dane County directors. Everybody was like, yeah, we would like more, flexibility, and we know our communities better than the county does. So if my community really wants hoopla because they want to watch movies at home, then I should be able to do that. So that's one of the big things here is that it's just eliminating the total items held. We also don't, so we all pay into Overdrive for ebooks, and that does not count into the collection size. That it's recorded elsewhere, but it doesn't count into this. So everybody was really on board with getting rid of that one. And then I think this next one, the annual item acquisition. So you had to add a certain number of items a year, which doesn't make sense to keep that if you're getting rid of the total size. So those two just come out. The other one that we're talking about is on that first page. So it's minimum FTE. We are bumping up against this one as well. And my comment that is not as interesting to everybody else in the county, as us.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that one.
Is that the first
Where is it?
page?
It's this
Okay, thanks,
minimum FTE paid staff per capita is what it's called.
Got it.
thanks.
So we're at I think we're at 19.75 FTE right now. And we're bumping it, we're going to be looking at needing to be up around 20, between 21, like 20 and 22 as the city grows. And my comment to Tracy on this one was, I feel like we're running very efficiently right now. I don't feel like I want to add staff at this time. There may come a time that I feel like we need more outreach staff, but I feel like the building is staffed well the way it is. And I don't want to add FTEs just because I'm not meeting this. Like, that doesn't seem like a good use of funds. We don't have the funds for it. We don't have space for it. There's a lot of reasons not to do it. And we are investing in this sorter. You know, we're spending $212,000 on a sorter that does a lot of work that we would have to do with people if we didn't have it. So I feel like there should be some sort of equivalency there. So is that a 1.0 FTE? I don't know. I also think self-checks. So we do about 85% of our checkout on self-checks. So I feel like that's doing a job that a person would be doing if we didn't have them. So I'm pushing them to decide what an FTE credit would be so that libraries, and some libraries don't want to do this because they feel like they're going to, if they have a self-check, they're going to be pushed to get rid of a staff person. I think that's sort of worrying about things that are not happening yet. I don't know.
I have a suggestion, and I don't know if it would be helpful to us in comparison to other libraries or not, but what about in thinking about managing the staff, I would 100% rather pay them more than have more of them.
Yeah.
So what if you did it based on total payroll instead of FTE count?
I like that idea. I think that the amount that library staff are paid between libraries, even in Dane County, is drastically different. So I think we pay pretty well, and I think there's a lot of little libraries that don't, that may not be able to meet it. Although if you set it low for them, I guess, then we would all be meeting it. If you think about it that way.
Could just be another way to look at it. If you have fewer
Yeah.
low-skill staff that are just checking people out and more higher-paid staff that are doing more management or programming or
Maybe.
whatever.
Yeah, let me think that through. The other thing that I think is going to make this maybe not so much of an issue, I reached out to Misty earlier this week to say, if we're paying this administrative fee for a certain percentage of time for all of these other departments, then why we should get credit for those FTEs. It doesn't matter to her. It doesn't do anything. Like, this is all within the library service. And she was able to real quickly put together a list of I think it'll be for 2024, 2.0, not exactly, FTE, that is what we're paying for finance staff, for HR staff.
Good point.
And I think that if I can talk to one of the consultants at South Central to figure out how to put that into that annual report that we fill out as our staff, because we are paying them,
Sure.
that we should get credit for that. So then I think this becomes less of an issue for me because we're going to meet the standard anyway. I still think this is something we should think about, so I'm not going to let this one go, but that this is coming to all, so this is going to all the library boards in Dane County last month or this month, and to be having this discussion without an FTE number associated with it, I think is really hard to even think about. So that's where we are. This is really just here for discussion. This is not, we're not approving this now, we're not signing this now, we're just saying that we think this is going in the right direction. It's a resounding yes for me because of that collection size. I think it just allows us to manage ourselves the way we were trained to do and the way that we see our community needing the library. So I think it's great. If you have questions about it, I'm happy to either take them back to Tracy or answer them myself. It's really funny to me that there are some things in here that are like the number of internet computers, like that was for sure added like in the 90s, and like I think we have to have 16 and we have like 42. So like there's some of them that are just kind of ridiculous now. And I think the idea is that we need to look at these every couple of years now to make sure that we're changing them as technology changes, as the world changes, just so they're more relevant. So yeah, because you can see they're requiring Wi-Fi now, so that was never a thing before. That just makes me laugh, like the thought of not having it. we couldn't function, so.
Having a non-internet computer.
Yeah, right? Like, what does that even do?
Can you
I
buy
don't-
one?
I don't know. I don't know. You play like Pong on it? I don't know. So any questions about this that I can answer?
So this is a fluid process?
It will come back to us later this year for an approval. And then they would go into effect for 2025, I believe. So they don't ever change anything, like, they don't want to pull the carpet out from under you for like next year in case it's an increase. All right. Excellent. I don't think we need to approve that because we're not signing anything.
Right, okay. So I have nothing for the president's report, and we're to the library director report.
Um,
You have the June 2023 statistics.
Yeah, we've got stats here. Summer reading continues to go really well. We've had a lot of, not quite as high attendance at the performers as we did at that first one, but we have a shark coming and a giant tank next week, so I expect that to be very well attended. Yeah, things are busy. I think staff are getting used to it. You know, we had some staff that were hired during the pandemic that were like, wow, there's a lot of people at my programs. This is kind of how it always was before. Yeah, so things are going well. And I think everything else I have fits somewhere in committees.
So, number 9, committee reports, strategic planning. Oh,
Just a
sorry,
question
Jim,
real quick.
sorry.
The volunteers.
Yes.
I just noticed that.
Yes.
So what do your volunteers do? I mean,
So we have not ramped up completely for volunteers since COVID. Volunteers, ideally, if they're in circulation, they're going to shell cards and they're going to pull books for the pick list. When we shut down for the pandemic, we had a number of volunteers that were just refusing to do shelving and only wanted to do the pick list, which meant that the shelvers that we pay only got to do shelving and never got to do the pick list. And that felt like an unfair. And we had some that were a little bit hard to manage about when they were coming in and how often. So we wanted to sort of revamp as we came back. So we are going much slower this time. And I guess taking them on one at a time to see what schedule is really going to work out and what we can expect from them. I would say our best volunteer situation is with teens. So we get teens that come in and we take on 3 or 4 maybe at a time so they can get some experience. So that's worked out. And we've hired a number of those later. But yeah,
okay.
yeah. They can't work in the patron database is one of the interesting things about volunteers. So they can't, because of privacy, they can't see anything in there,
Yeah,
so we
I can
can't
see
have
that.
them check in or check out. Like, they can handle materials, but not, they can't scan anything or be doing that kind of work, if that helps.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to have rushed you.
No, that's
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Have you had senior citizen volunteers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what most of them are.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
Some teens, some
Yeah.
seniors.
Yes. So they're like kind of two different programs.
Otherwise, I was just going to suggest that as another
Yeah.
group of people who might
Yes.
be willing and have time on their hands.
Yep. All right.
I guess you're not retired. I have 0 time on my hands. Nothing. And this committee
Well, and
and
I
that committee and,
I think that's one of the things that we've experienced with volunteers, that they're real gung ho. Like, we get a lot of people that are like brand new retired and they're like, great, I'm going to come in 4 days a week. And they're like, oh, but I'm actually kind of busy. So maybe like every other week, like once for like an hour, is that okay? And you're like,
Like, did you really retire or?
right,
Really?
right. Yeah.
all right, so we are going to go to committee reports, strategic
Yes, so you've
planning
got the calendar in front of you. So this is the result of many years of work. What we decided to do with this strategic plan when we planned it in 17 and implemented it in 18. And we wanted it to be really work group focused. So we would choose a project, we would get a group of staff together to work on it, and then it would have an end date. And that's worked out really well for us. We're thinking we'll do the same thing for the next strategic plan. But you'll kind of go through here, and we had, if you flip it over onto the second side, we've got the 4 major goals at the bottom, and then so we're saying a lot of these fit into more than one of those. A lot of them fit into all of them. So we started with fine-free borrowing, which feels like forever ago, but was in 2018. Who knew? So we did some security stuff. Space needs was a big one. A lot of this did change with the pandemic, and you'll see on page 2, there is a big section on COVID-19 response. That section was like 3 pages long, and we finally just deleted all of it because it seemed so important in the moment, every decision we made, and then it wasn't. So we tried to kind of tighten that one up. You'll see print management on here as well. That was a big one. And when I talk about putting money into the budget for strategic planning, it's things like that. So that was a $10,000 investment. So it's that type of thing that we're spending the money on. We have a few things left to wrap up, mostly to do with the sorter room. So we're looking to put carpet in there and kind of make some improvements in that room before we get the new sorter.
Wendy, you had talked about putting some sort of cushioning besides the carpet, or are you just going to go with carpet there?
So we're looking at a product that is a cross between carpet and vinyl plank.
Okay.
So
we'll
it
have
gives you a little bit of cushion, but
Okay.
not so much that you can't get carts across it or that it'll damage it.
Gotcha.
It's called Kinetics. I've never seen it before. I think it will be a much better choice than vinyl plank, which really doesn't give you very much cushion.
No.
Yeah. And I think, there's some ongoing projects. So under inclusive services, one of the things, or no, is it under collection management? We're working on some collection auditing to make sure that our collections are representative of the community. And I think that's kind of stalled because we had some vacancies in adult services. That's who's working on it. And that will, I think, continue on into the next plan. I don't know that it will land on the actual strategic plan because I think it's just going to be an ongoing thing now. So not everything here is completely done, like it's never gonna, happen again. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good summary of how we spent a lot of time. Does anybody have questions about anything on here? I just wanted you to see what we've been doing for 5 years.
Wendy, you have said plans in place to build a little free library.
Yes. Ooh, do you want an update on that?
I would love an update on that.
So Kevin found us some steel lockers in the maintenance shed up at Public Works. And it was a set of 3, and we just wanted 2. So they thought they'd just unbolt them, and then funny thing about lockers is then they just collapse. So they put them back together, so we have 2 lockers with doors. They're going to build a wood surround around it. They took it up to the maintenance facility, and they are welding on feet that we can bolt into concrete. So the idea behind the 2 lockers is that it's big enough to have English, Spanish, adult, and youth.
Okay.
So I am hopeful we'll get that done by the end of the summer. It is taking longer than expected, just due to...
And where will those be placed?
So they're going to be at Southdale Park. There is a sign there at sort of the front of the park, and then there is a concrete pad where they have installed a bike fixing station.
Okay.
And it's going to go right near that.
Thank you.
And Parks has already signed off on bolting that into the concrete.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's funded by the Friends of the Library. So the project is in here for the work, but the cost is, yeah. Any other questions? Excellent.
Facilities?
Well, it's never good news here, is it? We have a water leak in a pipe right outside this storytime room that we noticed probably a week ago. Yeah, probably a week ago. The ceiling tile was stained. And so Kevin got up there and found that the insulation around one of the pipes was wet. And so we cut that off, and we were trying to figure out where it came from. Pertzborn came out, that's our plumber. And it just wouldn't drip. We just couldn't find it. So we ended up putting paper on the ground and cordoning it off and waiting for it to drip to see where it was coming from. So we did, and they are coming out on the 28th. There was also, they went to find the valve to turn off the water to just that pipe in case we needed to, and that was also wet. That's outside the vending machine, like that bathroom area.
So is this a roof leak, or is this
No.
condensation on the pipes?
It's a pipe leak. It's a pipe connection. So where it dripped, it's a T connection. So it's a pipe coming off of the major pipe. So that is going to have to be replaced, and Kevin thinks the valve needs to be replaced as well. So they're coming on the 28th of June, next Friday.
July.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Hey, it could have been June of next year.
I was worried.
I mean, I will
know how long it
they
took
came
to
out
get the
the same day.
sorter.
They're great.
And the chiller.
Right. So they're coming out next Friday. We will possibly not be opening on time. They have to empty, so they have to turn off the water and empty all the pipes in the building, which means we don't have bathrooms, which means we called building inspection. We can't be open without bathrooms. Staff can be here because we have access to City Hall for bathrooms. I don't know. I am torn at this point about just saying we're going to try to open at noon and hope for the best, or if we just open when they're done. I don't know.
Never know what they could find, so it's always better to be safe than
As a
sorry.
not plumber, I don't know how long things take or how major it is. I know it takes 30 minutes to empty the system of water, so there is a whole process, and then I don't know how long to fill back up, so I don't know. We will decide that next week. That's not great. I think that's the only thing I had to report on our facility, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Personnel.
Personnel, we have one of our most productive shelvers is going to grad school and just went to Korea for vacation today, so she's done with us, which is real sad. But we need to hire some shelvers pretty quick, so we have that posted right now. We've gotten a great response, so I'm going to say again, moving that to $15 an hour has really paid off for us, because I think it's been up for a week and a half now, and we've got, yesterday we had 24 applicants, so.
Wow.
So we'll hire, I think probably, she was working more than the 10 hours a week, so we'll probably end up hiring 3. We have another summer shelver who will go back to college, so we'll probably need 3. Yeah, but hopefully that will go well. And that's it.
Excellent. Announcements. The next board meeting is Wednesday, August 16th, 5:30 PM. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, John. All in favor of adjourning? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Never.
We are adjourned at, what is it, 6:17 PM.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.